Each week we bring you all of the latest film news.
From interviews with filmmakers and actors to the new cinema releases.
Bob, talk to me, pick up. Come on, mate, come on!
How you doing?
I'm back.
It's Doug Hansen.
What do you do when you're not climbing, Doug?
I deliver the mail.
First mailman on Everest?
Hope so.
I like that.
I know there's a lot of mountaineering experience in this room. You wouldn't be here without it.
But Everest is the most dangerous place on Earth.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Arts Alive Film, coming to you from the Odeon Liverpool 1. I'm Tony Lindsay and look who's back!
I'm Tony Lloyd.
Okay, first one up, Everest.
Wow, what a film.
Yeah, as Diana Ross said, ain't no mountain high
I know.
enough.
Naughty.
Based on the ill-fated 1996 expedition, this tells a remarkable story. First of all, let's get some of the credits in. It's actually written jointly by Simon Beaufoy of the Full Monty fame and Bill Nicholson, who did Gladiator, so the credentials are first class.
Directed by Balthazar
Kumako, yeah.
Does a very good job
Yes, indeed.
of the vertigo. So what's the film like?
It's great. It's exciting, well paced, well photographed, well edited.
It doesn't just rely on, does it? It doesn't just rely on what you'd expect, the vertigo, the whatever. There's character in there. You've got, at that time, it was probably the busiest time on Everest at that time. They had a record number of people, and these are
full parties.
These are like climbing associations who would pay rich clients and take them to the summit.
Yeah.
But on this particular time in '96, there was too many, wasn't there? There was too many going for the summit at that particular time.
A bottleneck. It was actually bottleneck.
And we follow two particular leaders and their parties.
Yeah, Jason Clarke and Jake Gyllenhaal are the two leaders. They're the experts who
Playing
get
Bob
these.
Hall and is it Bobby Fischer?
That's right, Bobby Fischer.
Scott
They're
Fischer.
taking these rich clients up. One of which is Josh Brolin. And we're with them every step of the way. On the sidelines, you've got Emily Watson, Keira Knightley, Robin Wright is the womenfolk who don't really get much of a look in the.
No.
But they're there to provide the.
They relied for high impact in the short space of time.
Yeah, indeed.
But the real star of this is obviously Everest.
Yeah.
It's incredible. I mean, there's a scene in it where they talk about what's it like, why do you climb? I think if you it doesn't really go into that answer.
No.
But if you want a film about pure survival and what it must be like to even attempt, you've got to remember the height of this mountain is the average cruising height of a Boeing 747.
Yeah.
So you can imagine. But if you really want I suppose experience, you'd look at something like Beckoning in Silence or Touching the Void, Joe Simpson, Ken McDonald's with Joe Simpson.
Yeah.
But it's an exciting ride.
The star of this is the mountain itself.
Absolutely.
but
You'll be shivering when you walk out.
Absolutely. Get out there and see it.
Or get up there.
Indeed.
We got people stranded up there and storm is getting worse.
We got a problem. We're out of gas, Doug.
Just go.
No, I'm not leaving you behind. Come on.
I don't want to die, man.
Can you hear me, Rob? You've got to get moving. If anyone can make it, you can.
I love you.
This is Maria Bella Jameson, my Nana. And this is my pop-pop.
Grandma's hand used to hand
Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. We're visiting for the week.
Miss you guys.
We're having a great time.
She'd say, baby grandma understand.
I wanted to spend time with you for so long, Nana.
I have not seen your Nana this happy in years.
For grandma's ain't.
Bedtime here is 9:30. You two shouldn't come out of your room after that.
Good night.
Good night.
What is that? Nana? What the hell was that?
Okay, so that's The Visit, the latest from M. Night Shyamalan. This is the guy who did Sixth Sense,
Unbreakable,
and
The Village.
Signs and The Village. Them for me, they're probably my.
See, I've got a soft spot for The Happening. I know no one likes it, but
right.
I really like it. I like him.
Funnily, it reminded me of The Happening, as you pointed out. A couple of scenes in this. Two young kids, played by Olivia de Jong and Ed Oxenbould.
Ed's the stronger, isn't he?
Ed is the stronger. They go away to spend a week with their grandparents. Their mother walked out away from home when she was 17 years old, so that was 20 years ago.
So this is like she sent them as almost like a peace envoy, the bridge back to her, and these two spend their week with the grandma and Pop.
Yeah, Pops. Played by Catherine Hahn. Oh, sorry, Catherine Hahn plays the mother. Peter McRobbie plays Pops, the granddad, and Deanna Dunnigan plays Grandma. Now, they're told after 9:30, do not come out of your rooms.
It's a bit like Gremlins, don't feed them after midnight. But so there's actually on the film poster, there are rules, which is quite nice.
So, but
don't ever come out your room after 9:30.
And there's definitely something nasty in the woodshed.
Oh, everywhere.
Yeah, indeed. Something is not quite right. But now, this is billed as a horror comedy. I found.
Yeah, I get it.
I found that the tone is too uneven for me.
I mean, when it's purely on the scare fest, you've got this old woman literally crawling round on all fours, scuttling round, and at that point, there's a great scene under a crawl space under the house where
Terrifying.
that happens. All of that is genuinely unnerving. And the interplay between the grandparents when the slow realization that there's something not quite right with the two of them is actually great. I think where it falters is towards the end, and it doesn't really know what type of film it is.
No, it's the comedy. The comedy doesn't work with this. They should have it's a Blumhouse production, so they should have basically gone with the full Blumhouse effect.
Yeah, and it's a mixture, which is strange for him. It's a found footage, and it's quite a your classic narrative.
Although it's not as grainy and as edgy as a real found footage film, but it has its moments. It does have its moments.
I mean, as a little scare fest, you're out with your friends, or you want a
Friday night.
I think it'd be a perfect night for that. But it still doesn't deliver everything that you'd want from an M. Night film, really.
Would you mind getting inside the oven to clean it?
Stop! Now! Stop!
London in the 1960s. Everyone had a story about the craze.
I come here for a proper shootout. What you do with that rolling pin? You gonna bake me a cake? Rich?
You won't mind if I fight back, will you?
Well, the legacy of the craze still fascinates, doesn't it? You had Peter Medak's film of the craze, which is on this week.
On later this week, folks.
Yeah, you had that with the Kemp brothers in. Of course, then it fed the likes of 1971's The Villain with Richard Burton. Vic Dakin was like an amalgam of the two of them. So that brings us up to date. How are we doing with Tom Hardy?
Well, this is centred around Tom Hardy's blistering performances, both Ronnie and Reggie, and that's the casting coup. That's the thing that powers this movie. But you've also got Emily Browning in there as Frances Shea, who married Reg. You've got Chris Eccleston in there as Leonard Nipper Reid, the guy who
Great
the police
to see him in back.
Yeah, the police detective who tracked him down. David Thewlis in there as Leslie Payne, the business manager, the crazed business manager. But It's a strange one. The tone of this is it's quite uneven. There are laughs where there shouldn't be laughs. Written and directed by Brian Helgeland, based on The Profession of Violence by John Pearson.
And he's got good credentials in his own right,
Oh,
hasn't he?
Helgeland has, yeah. LA Confidential,
yeah.
Payback.
Great film.
He knows what he's doing. But the reproduction of the 60s is immaculate.
I was going to say production design.
Photography is superb. I mean, and it's not full of violence. There are probably two big scenes where the violence comes to the fore.
Where would you say the problem was with it, if there is one?
I think it's the powerhouse performance of Hardy is the plus, but sometimes it's the minus because he plays Ronnie almost semi-comic. So a little uneven. You know, judge for yourself from the trailer, see what you think. But for me, The Craze was the superior film.
Your loyalty to me.
Crime is still a business. You don't want a war.
Yeah, I do, actually.
Listen to yourself, Ron. You're nuts!
Blood is thicker than water. You hit me. You weren't afraid of anything.
Well, I knew myself, you know. And you.
Well, that's it for part one.
Coming up in part two, an interview with Liverpool filmmaker Ian Lysaght.
Lysaght, that's...
See you later.
Welcome back to part two, and I believe you have been a busy man this week.
Indeed I have. I bumped into Liverpool independent filmmaker Ian Lysaght. We sat down and had a talk. Take a look at this.
Good man.
Okay, first of all, welcome to Arts Alive Film, Ian.
Thanks, Tony.
Before we talk about the film, give me some background. As an independent filmmaker, you know, how easy is it to make a living in Liverpool?
It's not easy at all. I mean, we've been going for about 10 years now as a really small company, and you kind of, you know, you set yourself up on long-term projects as often as you can, but they do tend to become really long. So you do your normal work, you know, your stuff that's commissioned, whether it's like corporate stuff or music videos, but you'd have these long arc projects that you kind of have to control yourself.
They're the creative ones,
usually
the passion projects.
You've got something, you've got something invested in it, you know.
Okay.
Or you have access to something, you know, if you've got access to something good, like we've got really good links with footballers, so we've always kind of done, you know, we made Reds and Blues and we shot 15 Minutes That Shook the World and kind of, you know, comedy things, because we just have good football links.
Okay, and you kind of work with the same writers over and over again, don't you?
We have done, yeah. It depends, because we move quite a lot from fiction to documentary to, you know, to we do art installation films with the likes of Dave Jakes and things like that, you know.
Yeah.
So we try and keep a finger at every pie.
So what's the name of the company? Let's just put it.
We're called Tabacula.
Tabacula, okay. So you've worked outside of Liverpool as well?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Quite often, you know, you go where the work is, whether it's, you know, I've shot in Istanbul, you know, Paris, Avignon,
Cuba,
Mars,
of course.
Yeah, Havana, which is a good place to shoot.
Absolutely, I bet it is.
It's even better when you've got permission, though, you know.
Oh right, yeah, okay, when it's legal, yeah. So how tempting is it for you to take your company and say, well, let's go to London, for instance? Because that's the capital, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I mean, I've got a lot of friends who do production company. I've got production companies in London, and they get a lot of work. You know, they do, even if they're not very good. And you know, my friends are in good companies, but there's just a lot of like residual. You know, whether it's county council films, and they get a lot of productions that are well budgeted. We used to get them here, but ever since the crash, all the public money's dried up. So basically, if you don't create your own work, people aren't gonna knock on your door anymore.
Okay, so that brings us to Viva la Casa. Let's talk about that now. The Casa. Let's start with a brief introduction. I mean, that's very important. The Casa is very important to Liverpool.
It is.
It's the centre of social injustice, isn't it?
Yeah.
Give us a little background on that.
Well, the Casa kind of grew out of the ashes of the 95, 98 dockers dispute, which was obviously a massive dispute. 500 sacked men who picketed for over 2 years, and were eventually defeated. But out of that defeat, they started this. Well, first of all, they made a film with Jimmy McGovern, which was successful. It sold internationally. There was a documentary that went with the film called Righting the Wrongs. The film was Dockers, obviously, and it did well. The drama.
Yeah.
But from that, all the people who worked on it, in the writing terms with Jimmy, which was actually the sacked dockers themselves, put the fee towards this new place, which was the old Casablanca Club on Hope Street. So from the dispute, you get the film, and from the film, you get the place itself.
It's about people who stood up and had the fight. Some would say they lost the fight, some would say they won it, some would say they're still in it. But what this night is about is that no one is fighting alone. That's what you've done for tonight. By being here, by spending your money and giving your time.
Okay, so the film that you were brought in to do, that commemorates?
It kind of celebrates what the Casa is, It celebrates it, but it come about through, Brian Reed told us he was going to put on a solidarity night. So a night to raise funds to keep the Casa going at the Philharmonic. And he got a great lineup: John Bishop, Chris Cairns, Neil Fitzmaurice, John Power, The Farm, Mark Steele, Ricky Thompson, just a really, and everyone agreed straight away, there was no hesitation, because they believe in the Casa. And we said, well, we've got to film that. It sold out in minutes, so, there's a market for people who are going to want to see that show.
Sure.
But then that kind of put us the idea of, well, we can't just show the show itself, it's going to be a bit boring, so we've interspersed the show with retelling the story of how the Casa came.
So you've created a documentary, as it was, around that?
Yeah, but kind of like with elements of Scorsese's Last Waltz type thing, So your performance and then you're there. So it's not too much. It's not like you're sitting there for 10 minutes listening to people talk about, disputes and trade unions. It's, you get a couple of comments that give you the flavour of what the ethos was about the place, and then you get some comedy.
Okay, and now playing alongside this is a conversation in Cuba.
Yeah.
With Jimmy McGovern. Tell us a little bit about that.
Conversation in Cuba came about from the need to get back to Havana and drink rum and smoke cigars. I mean, it literally is that simple. With some projects, you just think, I go to Cuba quite frequently.
Right.
And you just say to yourself, we've got to do something out here. It's just an amazing place. If there's somewhere more interesting in the world, I've not been there.
Okay.
And so we were always talking about it in the pub, what can we do in Havana? Because it has got a flavour to it, which is not a million miles from Liverpool. Okay. Even though it's been in this bubble for 50 years, it's a major port.
Nikita Khrushchev pledged that the Soviet Union is raising its voice and extending a helpful hand to the people of Cuba. In the case of necessity, he threatened, Soviet artillerymen can support the Cuban people with rocket fire.
Leonardo's inspiration in many ways comes from his own life experience, of course. I mean, he was born in 1955, which means that when the revolution happened in 59, he was just out of infancy. So the whole of his life has been under the Cuban Revolution. Well, of course, he was brought up as that first generation of children to believe very strongly in the socialist ideal.
So who was this? Jimmy was taken out there to interview a local writer, was he not?
Well, we wanted to just make a film about Jimmy McGovern, but he doesn't like talking about himself, and he doesn't like going over his own work. So then we started, well, what if we got two writers together in conversation that would pull out the information from Jimmy? And then we started looking around for, an appropriate writer, and every time you search, Cuban author, Pejora's name's at the top.
Pejora was very much like McGovern. He's writes about social injustice.
Yeah, he takes on the big subjects. He takes on things that probably shouldn't be talked about in Cuba without getting in trouble.
Okay.
So he was right on the edge with a lot of his writing, in being critical of the regime and being critical of the state, which is not something you tend to want to do in a communist country.
But it's a nice fitting companion piece to the Casa film, isn't it?
Well, yeah, and once again, it was just something that we wanted to make in terms of, capturing Jimmy while he's still working, and you know, getting him to talk about the process, because it is fascinating, the process of sitting down to create something from nothing.
Right.
And you don't see many things where two writers will actually give you not the tricks of the trade, but you know, where does that storytelling gene come from? You know,
yeah,
it is inherent in some people.
No, absolutely. And you've just had a very successful little premiere of both films at the Philharmonic.
Yeah, it was a good night
on the 4th of September.
Yeah,
so,
I mean that was to once again to raise more funds for the castle itself. So all the proceeds from that go to the castle.
Excellent. So plans for the future for you then? Where'd you go from here?
We've got a couple of things in development. A couple of features that we've been kind of plugging up. Like most production companies, you'd have a desk in the corner that you know where you put your passion to.
Yeah. Know it well. Yeah.
So we've had 2 features in development for a while now, and you know, they're just in that kind of turnaround.
And you've got some serious money behind these.
Yeah, we've been, you know, on one of them we've actually got a pre-sale, which is, you know, with Universal as a distributor. So if we can raise the rest of the money for that, then we will get a green light on that.
Oh, excellent.
You know, fingers crossed.
Oh, well, we really look forward to seeing that project, and we wish you all the very best for that. Ian, thanks very much for
coming
Tony.
In. Thank
Cheers,
you.
Mate. Thank you. Well, that's it for another edition of Arts Alive Film, coming to you from the Odeon Liverpool 1.
Next week we'll be looking at the Liverpool Film Book Club, but until then, keep watching films.